Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. Facebook studies found its photo sharing app, Instagram, negatively impacts its users' mental health, especially for teenage girls. The Biden administration is sending $64 million in humanitarian aid to the Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. But whose hands will that money actually land in? New trouble for the CCP comes with the formation of a three-state defense alliance. But the real threat goes beyond its military aggression. Unexpected consequences of vaccine mandates are surfacing across the country. A Texas hospital is facing a dilemma between human resources and financial aid. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. About 22 million teenagers log onto Instagram every day. It is the Facebook-owned photo-sharing social platform. But what value does the network service add to the teens? Anxiety and depression? As Facebook's own studies have discovered. For the past 3 years, Facebook has been conducting studies into how Instagram affects its millions of young users. Repeatedly, the researchers discovered Instagram is harmful to a sizable number of teens, with teenage girls being the most vulnerable. Facebook knows about this issue very well, but in public, the company consistently plays down the app's negative effect on teens. It hasn't made its study available to academics or lawmakers who have asked for it. However, the Wall Street Journal obtained some of the documents and brought the toxic impact on teens to light. In a slideshow presentation from March 2020, researchers said about 1 in 3 teen girls said when they felt bad about their bodies, Instagram made them feel worse. Another slide said, teens blame Instagram for increases in the rate of anxiety and depression. This is a reaction unprompted and consistent across all groups. There was also an internal study that examined whether there was a link between suicidal thoughts among teens and time spent on Instagram. 13% of British and 6% of Americans users attribute their self-harming desires to Instagram usage. Congress is looking into this matter. Senator Richard Blumenthal and Marsha Blackburn are launching a bipartisan probe into Facebook's knowledge of Instagram's negative impact on teens. In a joint statement, they said, it's clear that Facebook is incapable of holding itself accountable. They accused the company of being focused on a grow-at-all-cost mindset that valued profits over the health and lives of children and teens. Currently, Blumenthal and Blackburn are in touch with a Facebook whistleblower and said the Wall Street Journal's blockbuster reporting may only be the tip of the iceberg. Meanwhile, Senator Ed Markey and Representatives Kathy Castor and Lori Trahan on Wednesday renewed their call for Facebook to drop its plan to launch a version of Instagram, and get this, for children under the age of 13. It's noteworthy that there are some Democrats who are pretty vocal against the social media giant's eroding effect on the nature of young people. The group wrote to CEO Mark Zuckerberg, as the internet and social media specifically becomes increasingly ingrained in children and teens' lives, we are deeply concerned that your company continues to fail in its obligation to protect young users. A series of highly questionable decisions on Afghanistan did not stop after the completion of the military withdrawal. This week, the Biden administration announced it will send $64 million in aid. Of course, the funds are for humanitarian assistance. The UN and independent aid groups in Afghanistan are expected to distribute the money. The very rational question is, how confident are you that the funds will achieve their alleged goals in a country that is Taliban-controlled? At a Senate hearing on Tuesday of the military withdrawal, Senator Rand Paul raised his strong opposition to the move. He said the Taliban has a history of taking these funds. This was a big complaint when they were in power the last time. Paul reminded Secretary of State Antony Blinken that the Taliban now has $80 billion worth of U.S. military equipment and 350,000 automatic weapons. He asked, are we really naive enough to believe that we're just going to keep sending charity to Afghanistan and they're not going to interrupt it? Paul called such belief a foolish notion. This is Blinken's reply. Absent the Taliban making good on the commitments and expectations of the international community that I've outlined previously, that's correct. So, did Blinken essentially say that you're right about the Taliban showing a history of breaking commitments, but we're going to send the money out anyway? You know that in Cuba, foreign resources sent to the country for humanitarian aid are mostly intercepted by the communist government. The aid barely serves its purpose as it actually makes the Cuban government more corrupt and oppressive. Now, in a totalitarian Afghanistan under the Taliban, with a proven history of terrorism, no wishful thinking should be allowed. In Congress, calls to designate the Taliban as a terrorist organization are getting louder. On Wednesday, a group of senators led by Marco Rubio introduced legislation that would demand Blinken designate the illegitimate Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan as a state sponsor of terrorism and the Taliban as a terrorist organization. In a separate call, Senator Joni Ernst, a Republican military veteran, along with other GOP members, pressed Blinken for the same thing. She said the Taliban easily meets all three criteria as a foreign terrorist organization and called on Blinken to treat them as such to the maximum extent of the law. Under the Immigration and Nationality Act, the three criteria for making terrorist organizations are: the group in question is a foreign organization, the group engages in or is capable of engaging in terrorist activity, and the terrorist activity threatens the security of the United States. At the hearing, Blinken continued the rhetoric that the Biden administration will look closely at the Taliban's action to determine what actions to take. A new defense alliance between the US, the UK, and Australia formed on Wednesday to focus on Indo-Pacific security. President Joe Biden and the two prime ministers announced a joint deal called AUKUS, AUKUS, to counter the rapidly growing threat from the Chinese Communist Party in the region, especially in the South China Sea. Actually, the three leaders didn't specifically mention China in their announcement, but they know the new coalition will definitely offend the increasingly sensitive CCP. In recent years, the CCP has frequently conducted intrusive military exercises in the area. The regime did not hide its ambition to conquer Taiwan in the near future, and by no means is that an easy step for the CCP. So it has been tirelessly buying allies around the world, forcing them to do business with China instead of Taiwan. Any recognition of the island at the moment infuriates the CCP, so certainly the regime wouldn't want a new pro-Taiwan alliance in the Indo-Pacific either. There are already two coalitions doing more or less the same, a mini NATO group and the informal Quad in the area, watching and restraining the CCP's aggression. AUKUS is set to enhance information sharing in key technologies among the three members. In addition, America and the UK will help Australia acquire nuclear-powered submarines. What the free world should be really watching is the CCP's unrestricted warfare, which goes far beyond the normal definition of war. And that's exactly what CCP does best. To give a couple examples, for instance, in Taiwan, many major media are controlled by the CCP to align its foreign propaganda strategy, export lies, and create social chaos. The viewpoints expressed in these medias blindly repeat the lies from the People's Daily, the official mouthpiece of the CCP. There are also cases of high-ranking military officers in Taiwan being bought by the CCP agents. There are similar cases in the United States. Some American politicians are acting as lobbyists for the CCP after leaving the government, such as former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. The CCP calls him an old friend. Many of America's strategic mistakes in history are linked to this. The inappropriate relationship between California Representative Eric Swalwell and CCP spy Fang Fang, which had been widely reported in the media, is also one of those recent cases. Axios reported exclusively in December 2020 that Fang Fang enrolled at California State University East Bay in 2011, was president of the university's Chinese Student Association. Between 2011 and 2015, Fang was active in California politics, scouring the Bay Area and the nation for promising new political talent. U.S. officials believe Fang's true purpose was to gather political intelligence to influence the views of the rising American political stars on China. And here's the honest truth. The CCP has the easiest time getting its way with people who indulge in their own fame, fortune, and desires while ignoring moral integrity. A Texas hospital is facing closure from the vaccine mandate. CEO of Brownfield Regional Medical Center, Jerry Jasper, said if the mandate goes through, 20 to 25% of the staff will be gone. Losing that many healthcare workers would likely cause this hospital to shut down. But forfeiting Medicare or Medicaid monies isn't an option either, the CEO said. The White House stipulates for healthcare workers to receive Medicaid or Medicare funds, they must get vaccinated. However, for Brownfield, which is located in a rural community with high poverty, Medicaid is essential to the running of the hospital. Another local hospital executive, CEO of the Seminole Hospital District, Larry Gray, echoed Jasper's concerns. He said that a large percentage of the hospital's revenue comes from Medicare and Medicaid. The mandate would be devastating for his community. It's also a terrible message because if the vaccinations are working, Why do you have to mandate people to get the vaccines, he asked. Well, a lot of us had wondered if vaccines work. Why would we need to protect the vaccinated, as the White House said? Now we have the answer. That's because the vaccines don't guarantee immunity against the virus. They mitigate symptoms and prevent hospitalizations, according to the CDC. In upstate New York, a hospital has to temporarily close its maternity ward because too many nurses resigned over the mandate. This might be the ultimate fallout of mandatory vaccines because it now poses threats to the operation of hospitals. And coming up, Los Angeles County will mandate vaccine passports. A sheriff in another California county will refuse the mandate, and in Canada, there are demonstrations over vaccine mandates as well. But before we continue, I want to take a quick second to ask all my friends watching and the live chat family to please take a moment to hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, but most importantly, share this video. I'm depending on you, my friends, and the power of word of mouth to spread the truth. And today, I get the pleasure of toasting Mary Beth, also known to the live chat family as M. Nichols. She has been promising to send me these pics for weeks, but I'll give her a pass because she is, and I speak for the entire live chat family, one of our favorite family members, and we all look forward to her presence every night. And with that being said, let's grab our mugs and allow me to say thank you, Mary Beth. Your support is greatly appreciated. Salute. Los Angeles County is rolling out vaccine mandates. The county will require proof of COVID-19 vaccination or a negative test result at bars, nightclubs, breweries, lounges, and other businesses beginning October 7th. The new order states customers and employees will have to have at least one shot by October 7th and be fully vaccinated by November 4th. Now, at the same time, in California, a county sheriff is refusing to comply with the mandate. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco said he will not enforce any vaccine mandate for his department because he said he doesn't believe the government has the authority to mandate people's health choices. In July, Governor Gavin Newsom issued a public health order requiring all state workers, including police officers, to provide proof of vaccination or submit to regular COVID-19 testing. Riverside County has not issued any directives on vaccination requirements for its employees, and now Bianco said that won't happen. President of the Riverside Sheriff's Association, Bill Young, said that he supports the sheriff 100% in this matter. Bianco made headlines last year for refusing to enforce Newsom's stay-at-home order. He described himself as, quote, the last line of defense from tyrannical government overreach. It's quite notable that the police are pretty vocal about their opposition to mandatory vaccines. Over the weekend, 6 members of the Los Angeles Police filed a federal lawsuit against the city to overturn its vaccine mandate. The plaintiffs are also suing their department chief, Michael Moore, and Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti. The suit alleges the statewide mandate ignores studies about natural immunity against the disease, and the city, while requiring people to show proof of vaccination, doesn't provide a way for people to prove their natural immunity. Vaccine mandates are now a global phenomenon. In Canada, demonstrations against vaccine mandates for healthcare workers erupted across the country. The group Canadian Frontline Nurses is the organizer for many of the events. Co-founder of the group, Sarah Kajunian, said she was fired from her nursing job for posting her beliefs about lockdowns online. And now many media outlets are misrepresenting their narratives about the vaccines and labeling their protests as anti-vax. Not only the media, government agencies are discrediting their efforts as well. Last week, the Canadian Nursing Association issued a strongly worded statement condemning the protest, saying they were harassment to the already exhausted healthcare workers. Kajunian said the protests were not at all targeting anyone or the vaccines. It's the mandates, which they are strongly opposed to. In fact, the rallies organized by Canadian Frontline Nurses are now an important outlet for doctors and nurses, as well as everyday Canadians, to raise their concerns and objections to the mandatory vaccination.
I am completely against vaccine mandates. I think they are a coercive measure to get people vaccinated. This is against our freedoms. This is against anyone's medical decision. It should be nobody's business to have anyone inquire about their medical status and about what vaccine they took.
A gentleman stopped to share with us what happened when he went to see his doctor to get a medical exemption.
And the doctor mentioned that the College of Medicine and Surgeon of Ontario gave a protocol not to give any medical exemption until you take the first jab.
This week, Toronto frontline workers and first responders also held a silent vigil against the mandate outside of Queen's Park. On the Canadian Frontline Nurses website, its declaration on freedom from vaccination coercion is based on Christian values. The declaration states it upholds the solemn and inherent right of every person to assert their freedom to decline any unwanted medical treatment or procedure, including vaccination, without fear of discrimination, punishment, or reprisal. To get a good idea of the nature of the protest, the answer is easy. Just listen to the protesters yourself.
It's not totally against being vaccinated, or I'm vaccinated. I'm here because I find that the freedoms of all of these people in Canada is being squashed.
I'll tell you, my biggest reason is because there are 60,000 medical professionals who are not allowed to speak. They've been silenced from the beginning, and I think that's atrocious in a democracy. This should not be happening. We used to have debates before. What do we have now? Nothing. There's only one point of view, and the rest of us are not allowed to say anything. Why is that? Are we in Canada or are we in commie Canada? I don't understand that.
And that's it for today, my friends. Check out the playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me in the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on Newmaker, Gab, Parler, and Getter. Now don't forget, please sign up to the email list so that we can stay in touch. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.